Did you know they could do that?
No.
I thought nothing would ever top the "what is grief if not love persevering" line from WandaVision. But then Ayo went and dropped the
Dora Milaje have jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje find themselves to be.
like a total boss, and now I just don't know. The Dora Milaje are proving to be the fiercest fighters in the MCU. What are some of the key highlights from their MCU appearances? And how does it compare to some of their comic battles? Well, let's get into it right now. The Dora Milaje mean serious business. If you don't know that by now, then you're probably in serious trouble. The elite warriors have been positioned as a strong fighting unit since their introduction in the MCU. We first caught a glimpse of the Dora Milaje demeanor in Civil War after T'Chaka's death. This really wasn't the movie to fully introduce what the group was capable of, since instead Civil War was more focused on having Tony and Steve punch each other a lot, but it did set the stage for their presence and personality to expand in Black Panther's solo movie. They had one really memorable bit in Civil War. It was the showdown between Ayo and Black Widow that had the Wakandan tell Natasha,
"Move, or you will be moved."
Now, we don't get to see the resolution because T'Challa diffuses the situation, but even he quips how much he'd like to see that fight. And he's not even one of the big quipsters, so you know it's a big deal. It's probably because T'Challa knows just how strong of fighters the Dora Milaje actually are. And I mean, he should. He's known them for his entire life. They've been protecting the King of Wakanda for ages, as evidenced in the opening of Black Panther, where a disguised Zuri comments on the two Grace Jones-looking chicks. They don't get to swing their weapons here, but even N'Jobu knows that he needs to let the Dora Milaje in immediately, or else he'd probably not have a front door anymore. Again, a lot of Black Panther the movie had the Dora Milaje as more of a presence rather than showing off their impressive skills, mainly because showing off their skills would overshadow Black Panther. But there were some awesome moments. Look at how helpful Okoye was in the South Korean casino fight and subsequent car chase. She proved how deadly she was with that spear, and being the general of the Dora Milaje, she's just one member of the group. Imagine a whole unit of them working together. As fierce as the warriors are, they are duty-bound to serve the King of Wakanda, a role they take very seriously. When Killmonger takes over, as much as Okoye and the Dora Milaje don't like it, they have no choice but to follow his orders. But when T'Challa is shown to be alive, they're able to fight back. And this fight scene is awesome. Sure, Killmonger does end up killing one of the Dora Milaje, but it should be noted they do almost subdue him themselves. It's basically the Dora Milaje against a super soldier and a near impenetrable suit, and they still almost win. This whole event was the Battle of Mount Bashanga, and the group really strutted themselves and proved they're the deadliest warriors with spears on the planet. And then we got the whole Thanos invasion in Infinity War, and the Dora Milaje assisted in the Battle of Wakanda. Sure, Earth wasn't that successful as a whole, but we were pretty lucky the final battle was able to take place in Wakanda, where our forces at least stood a chance against the invading forces. So all these instances show the Dora Milaje in action without ever giving them the full spotlight. But that all changed with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show. When Bucky and Sam busted Zemo out of prison, it should have been obvious that the Dora Milaje would come knocking. They had serious beef with a surprisingly good dancer Zemo, since, you know, he's responsible for the death of their king, and they came to collect. This led to their best showcase yet against John Walker, Battlestar, Sam, and Bucky. The new Captain America tried to defuse the situation in all the wrong ways, leading to, what's the technical term? Oh yeah, a major butt-kicking. The way the Dora Milaje used their spears in close combat against all of them was nothing short of amazing. They not only reduced the new Captain America to a sad sack, whiny baby on the floor, but they literally disarmed Bucky. Their expert prowess in battle was such a wake-up call for John Walker that it led him to take the Super Soldier Serum in order to stand a chance against people like them. But something tells me that even with the serum, a group of Dora Milaje would still be a major threat, right? But the big question is, how does the Dora Milaje we've seen in the MCU compare to the Dora Milaje in the comics? Well, I think that's a bit of an unfair comparison. the MCU has not specifically had the spotlight on the Dora Milaje for very long, while the comics have had years of stories, battles, specific character moments to pull from to show off this elite fighting force. Like, take the Civil War in the comics, for instance. During that event, Storm and T'Challa visited the White House with the Dora Milaje at their side. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden the warriors were fighting War Machine and the Sentinels. Sounds like a hard fight, but the Dora Milaje held their own, and they were so impressive, the US government took notice and began to research the fighters. I imagine the US went to a room somewhere and just sat around in awe at these warrior women and wondered what was in the Wakanda water. And in the comics, the Dora Milaje are always adapting and evolving. After a fight with Doctor Doom cost 2 Dora Milaje their lives, T'Challa decided to train the fighters to specifically deal with magic users and robots. Or, as Sam would say, 2 of the big 3. Hey, that's kind of useful in this wacky Marvel world, don't you think? Knowing how to battle robots and wizards probably will help you out in the long run, because chances are you'll probably run into one eventually. Also in the comics, the size of the Dora Milaje is much bigger than the movies. For example, during Doom War, when Doom tried to take over Wakanda, man, what is that dude's deal with Wakanda? There were over 500 Dora Milaje warriors fighting against him. And let's just hope we don't follow the nation under our feet storyline from the comics, because Wakanda has been through enough as it is. In that storyline, 2 of the top Dora Milaje, Ayo and Aneka, defected from T'Challa's regime and started liberating oppressed Wakandans they believed the crown had neglected. It was a massive event that eventually led to T'Challa establishing a Wakanda constitution that helped him serve as the representative of his people rather than just their ruler. So what does the future hold for the Dora Milaje? Well, it depends on what direction the movies are going to go. After the tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman, there was a lot of speculation whether Black Panther 2 was going to recast the role or continue on without the character. Kevin Feige confirmed in the massive Disney Investor Day extravaganza that they would not be recasting the character, which raises a ton of questions. It means that someone else is going to have to step up and lead. But I think this is a real chance to flesh out the Dora Milaje even more. During the whole Killmonger era, the Dora Milaje were just blindly loyal to the crown at first, bound by duty, even though Killmonger was setting up to do some horrendous things. Have the Dora Milaje changed their ways since then? Will they have an active voice and input regarding who becomes the next leader of Wakanda? And will we see some new characters in the Dora Milaje going forward? Yes, we know Okoye and Ayo, but there are still a few big names that could show up. One of them being Queen Divine Justice, who would make a fascinating addition to the group and offer a whole new perspective on what it means to be part of Wakanda's greatest fighting force. There's also the upcoming Wakanda TV show that's coming up. That show is still being kept under wraps for now, but if I was a producer on that show, I would use it to further explore the political inner workings of Wakanda, something the Dora Milaje are definitely a major factor in. As the MCU continues to grow over time, we're slowly and surely putting more focus on the Dora Milaje. It was a pleasant surprise when they popped up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it shows just how much they can liven up the atmosphere and the mood. Plus, if you want an excellent fight scene, you'll find a way to work in the Dora Milaje because at this point, they're basically superhuman.